Only get started when it's midnight, keeping it tight. It can get dark, but we stay bright. Coming like a night, it's inside, ever touch my sleeve. I'm there, wanna disagree when it's clear that I'm speaking facts. Man like me, you know I'm proactive. Never gonna stop till I see the big man's
on. Crikey! Good day, mate. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's October 20th, 2025. We are here in Sydney, Australia, on location at the offices for the Centre for Independent Study. It's day 4, 5, maybe 6 here in Australia. After you've seen a certain amount of kangaroos and koalas, you start losing track of time. But it's been a great trip so far. Show in Melbourne was fantastic. Sydney tomorrow, couple tickets left. I think we opened up a second tier because it already sold out. daverubin.com/events. And we're just going to dive in. We're going back to America because apparently when Dave Rubin leaves the country, things get a little wacky. And there's a group of people, mostly in furry costumes, who think that a king is coming to get them. Although I'm fairly certain they're just extremely misguided and often anti-American idiots. So let's begin. Actually, first, I should pause for a moment. We're going to start with Bill Maher. And you know I've done a lot of work with Bill. We've dragged Bill. We've taken Bill. We've made Bill a little bit more, let's say, open to our ideas, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, when it comes to this No Kings thing, which is a highly coordinated leftist group of people who are trying to topple the American government, Bill's not seeing it quite clearly. Let's start with that.
It looks to me like they are looking for a pretext always. The sending the troops to Portland and Chicago, and now this thing that's going on tomorrow. I think they're rooting for violence because when violence happens, then it gives you the pretext to then send in more troops. And they're already shown that they will absolutely not concede elections. Trump still has not publicly conceded the 2020 election. So like when you have this, if this is really the state of the country, I can see we have to cancel the next election. Right. There's just too much unrest. Right. We'll get back to elections, but we have to, it's just too
Once we get things safe.
We get things safe. Yeah. This is what this looks like, or at least they have earned the suspicion. I think what it's about is hanging on to power by making the case that it is an existential necessity for our side to hold on to power because this other side is, Don't you want safer streets? Right? That's the whole pitch.
Well, actually, Mark Cuban, I'll start with you. People do want safer streets. They don't want Hamas-aligned people running around the streets. They don't want endless murder like in Chicago or mayhem like in other blue cities. That's one part of it. But Bill, let me work with you here a little bit. The Democrats and the socialists and the Marxists who are out there, they are protesting that they don't want a king in charge. Donald Trump not only won the last election, but won every single swing state. And by the way, even though millions of people were marching, there basically was no violence. The pretext thing, it never even materialized. But if you're looking for a pretext, it's constantly those guys calling us Nazis that might be willing to, I don't know, turn somebody into someone who might want to assassinate the president of the United States or kill Charlie Kirk. So virtually everything you said there probably could be turned around the other way. But I get it. You're trying to remain the sane guy on that side. Also, the thing about the canceling the elections, like, come on, Trump, we've been through this, like the fear-mongering thing, like, Bill, you're better than that. Come on. But he does get some of the things right, and this was a few moments later.
Have you noticed that now that Hamas has taken over again, they're, what?
Shooting everybody.
Where are the protesters? Suddenly, the keffiyeh-wearing college kids are very quiet.
Can't be found anywhere.
This is okay? It's just amazing the asymmetry of what goes on.
Okay, so on one hand, Bill, previous segment, like you're seeing it all kind of backwards. This segment, you're getting it right. It's utter hypocrisy that all of the people who were protesting and calling what happened in Israel and Gaza a genocide for 2 years, that none of them celebrated the peace deal. And now that Israel has gotten out of Gaza, we know that Hamas has killed at least 100 Palestinians, and they don't care at all, right? Where are the protests against Hamas? Where are even just the kind of rough statements, I'm for the people of Palestine, so let's not kill these people. So, all right, we had a little sort of bad Mar there, good Mar there. But now let's show you a little bit from the No Kings rally that is going across the country. And I have to say, it's a little weird being out of the country and then seeing these things. It makes them seem doubly weird. Here is a bit from one of the No Kings rallies.
Hey! You ever heard of Ozempic, you fat ass?
Justice! When do we want? Now! If we don't get it.
All right. So first off, the lady who was doing this and that little motion, shot in the neck motion, that lady, she was doing that pointed to a car that had a placard of Charlie Kirk. Turns out she was a public school teacher in New Jersey. The reason I say was now it turns out she no longer is a public school teacher. But these people are out there. They're rallying, they're protesting, they're exercising their rights as Americans, and that's all totally fine. Now, I think they're completely misguided. I'm not sure they realize what the issues are, and you could argue that it's just the next morphing of BLM, and then it became Hamas rallies, and now it's No King rallies, and it's largely all the same people, and we'll get to some of the coordination and some of the funding in just a second. But here's, if you want to just listen to just sort of, I would say, a stereotypical person who is out there. What do they kind of generally think about everything? Take a look.
I have to ask this because people on the other side are going to say that they feel like the Democrat Party has been mean. Recently, with Charlie Kirk being assassinated,
He's a piece of garbage. Of course we were mean. I am so tired of people saying, oh, but, it's a terrible thing. No, Hitler is dead. I'm glad Hitler's dead. Evil people have no place in my world. He was a hateful human being. It was disgusting, the things that he said and did. I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. I have to point my energy in other directions.
Okay, there's a couple of things here. First off, you might say, Dave, that's a little heavy-handed. Does that woman represent most of the people there? But I actually don't think it's heavy-handed. If you were to poll most of the however many millions of people, and there were millions of people, it was an awful lot of people all over the country that were out there, how many of them actually would say that Charlie Kirk was just a decent American and had a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that he could exercise his free speech and everything else? Now, she basically was celebrating his death. I don't know what percentage would go that far. But then the next thing is the key part when she then says, well, Hitler is dead and that is good. The implication is that it's good that Charlie Kirk is dead. Well, lady, you might want to think about what you're actually doing there, because not only are you instigating violence, and we know how violent the left has become, but people on the other side might look at someone like you and say, boy, that woman seems really, really hateful. She's celebrating the fact that Charlie Kirk is dead. Maybe I should kill her. So once you open this Pandora's box, you better be careful. A lot of stuff will fall out. We have had a basically violence-free society for many, many decades, right? In the 60s, there were a lot of political assassinations. And then we went 40, 50 plus years really without much. Then Trump was almost killed. Then Charlie was killed. And now people are out on the streets openly and brazenly celebrating it and explaining to you why they think it's okay. Now, interestingly, also, that woman comes across as kind of a probably upper middle class person of a certain age. You would think, as I always say about Nancy Pelosi, maybe it's like, lady, go play with your grandchildren instead of being out there celebrating the murder of your political opponents. But there were an awful lot of people out there. And even on NBC, this is NBC Boston, the local affiliate, they had to admit that most of the crowd was, let's say, a little less than young.
Are there. This is an older crowd. There's not a lot of folks, and granted, it's a big crowd here. I'm not good at estimating, but it's definitely over 2,000, maybe close to 3,000. We can't see everyone, but it's an older crowd. A lot of white hair. You see out there, Q-tips, as we used to call them in the business. And they're out protesting, and not a lot of young people.
Okay, so that's sort of interesting. Not a lot of young people, Q-tips as we used to call them, a lot of old people. Now, there were plenty of young people out there too, but it is sort of interesting that it seems to me that the boomer generation, which clearly has a certain percentage of people that are wildly afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome, are out there protesting. And of course, again, you can protest. It's your right as an American to do it. But why are these people at this point so brainwashed to think that Donald Trump is a king, a man who won every swing state, won the map quite soundly against an absolutely awful candidate whose entire candidacy was fraudulent, from the coup that she put against the sitting president to his entire presidency with the auto pen and everything else. And you might go, well, how did these people get brainwashed? Well, NBC, MSNBC, you'd only have to look at your own numbers because, yeah, look at this. This is a graph showing how the average age of mainstream media viewers is over 60, and MSNBC's average viewer is 70 years old. I have nothing against older people. Suddenly 60 is not seeming that old to me, actually. But you can see, why would a certain set of people, if they still buy the mainstream narrative, Russia, 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 Jussie Smollett was lynched, very fine people on both sides, Kyle Rittenhouse, all of these things, if you buy all of that stuff, you might be crazy enough to be out on the street protesting, not really sure why you're protesting in the first place. But it wasn't just old people. There were also unicorns out there.
What brings you out and to be inside this hot unicorn costume today?
Well, we're here to represent the loving, hardworking community of Los Angeles. We're here peacefully protesting, looking as ridiculous as we can, just so maybe we appeal to the president.
It's like the president is acting ridiculously, so why not dress ridiculously himself to deliver a serious message to the president? Not a bad strategy.
But I know, and I'm going to go to Maya in a second, but don't you find this profound, Jacob? Right? We're constantly talking about how angry the country is, how divided it is, how it's people's angry and feeling of discontent that's driving them politically. But I can't help but feel like this day you're just surrounded by this feeling of immense joy for community and for one another and for this country.
Lady, you're an idiot. We just played a clip of a woman saying that she was happy that Charlie Kirk was killed and doesn't want to live in a planet like that. Now, congratulations. You found one guy in a unicorn costume who sounded kind of like he likes everybody. But it's utterly, these people are utterly absurd. They don't know what they are protesting. What is objectively, what is the worst thing that Donald Trump has done as president? He closed the borders. That's true. He made sure that illegals can't come here. That's what we voted for. That's what makes us a sovereign nation. He's going after illegals. There are no grandmas on linoleum, as Jon Stewart said, and they aren't just rounding up random black and brown people. So Stephanie Ruhle, that's the MSNBC reporter there that's so happy about what's going on. It's like, lady, not only, I assure you there are plenty of anti-American and socialist and Marxists and probably even worse forces out there. We'll get to that in just a second, who don't love America and all of that. But these are not, they don't even know why they are out there in the first place. The only reason most of them are out there is because of the very propaganda that you put up every day. Let's talk about Perplexity AI for a moment and then more on the other side. Let me ask you something. How much time do you spend every day clicking around on your web browser? Searching, scrolling, typing, juggling endless tabs. It adds up fast, right? Well, there's a new AI-powered web browser from Perplexity called Comet, and it's completely changing the way we interact with the internet. Comet isn't just another browser. It's like having a personal assistant that lives inside your browser and actually does things for you online. You can ask Comet to handle tasks, and it literally clicks, types, searches, and scrolls just like you would to get things done in the background while you go about your day. Comet can shop for you, make reservations, book flights or hotels, summarize articles or videos, send emails, schedule meetings, pay bills, find promo codes, even unsubscribe you from spam. I tried it myself, and watching Comet actually do things in real time is wild. It's like seeing the future of web browsing unfold right on your screen. You can even check out the demo to see Comet in action. So if you're ready to take back your time online, download Comet today at pplx.ai/Rubin. That's pplx.ai/Rubin. And when you download Comet right now, you'll get a free month of Rumble Premium. Try it today and let your browser finally work for you. All right. So, if there is a rally and there are people out there not sure why they're out there, well, who's going to show up? Yes, it's old socialist millionaire windbag Bernie Sanders. And here he is, a millionaire now, going after a billionaire because, jealousy, socialism, old buffoon, etc. Go.
Yes, I am talking about the insanity of one person, Mr. Musk, owning more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. I'm talking about the incredible injustice of the top 1% in America now owning more wealth than the bottom 93%.
Man, I am so over this class warfare socialist BS. I really am. Now, first off, Elon Musk, not only did he buy Twitter to save free speech, a pretty freaking American principle, right? He bought something that was purging money at a premium price because the board didn't even want to sell it to him. The shareholders didn't even want to, well, the shareholders wanted to sell it. The board didn't want to sell it. Overpays for it, thankfully, basically saves the election by doing it, then becomes red-pilled in many other ways. What else is he doing? He's doing the Boring Company, which is literally putting underground tunnels so that we can eliminate traffic above ground. What else is he doing? Well, he's doing Starlink so we can send internet across the world. What else is he doing? Well, he's got SpaceX so we can move rockets across the galaxy and put life, hopefully, on Mars and well beyond and make it interplanetary, as he talks about. He's doing Neuralink so that people who are quadriplegics will be able to move again, or quite literally right now can play chess with their minds. Like, unbelievable things. And that's the guy you're angry about. Now, interestingly, if you're angry at billionaires, you never bring up George Soros. And I wonder why. Again, we'll have more on some of the funding behind these protests in just a second. But the point here is, of course, Bernie, and then, of course, it's about the 1%. The 1%. The 1% usually means if you make about $400,000 a year, which most people would love to make. That's a lot of money. But you want to come after the 1%? Like, this is how you create a situation that people will hate their neighbors. They will hate their bosses. They will hate their colleagues. Every single thing is based in jealousy with this guy. But yes, Bernie is a millionaire with 3 houses. And you may remember this from the 2020 primary when a billionaire who ran for president for about 2 weeks got up there, and it was pretty terrible, Mike Bloomberg. But he did have a nice moment calling out Bernie's ridiculous hypocrisy.
We have the best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What did I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, house 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, house 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that.
You've really got to love that. So Bernie, first off, Mike Bloomberg, who was an unbelievably terrible candidate, it was embarrassing. My theory on him is that they threw him in just for a couple weeks to deflect because they knew Biden was breaking down and they needed everybody to focus on him. But put that aside for a second. He also had a guy who has no personality. Pretty good line there when Bernie says, well, I'm in D.C. and he goes, that's the first problem. Okay, so that was pretty good. But then the 3 houses. So Bernie's always complaining about everybody else's lifestyle. Everyone who has more, always it's a problem. But Bernie has a reason. Bernie has to, because Bernie works in D.C., so he needs a house there. And then he lives back at home in Vermont, so he has to have a home there. And then, like a lot of people, he has to have a summer home. So when he does it, right? And this is AOC flying private jets everywhere. When they do it, it's just okay. When you do it, when the people they don't like do it, then they've got a problem. Keep in mind also, Bernie Sanders has been in the Senate for about 40 years. There is no major piece of legislation with his name on it. He basically has done nothing other than trick a generation or maybe 2 generations into thinking that envy and jealousy is actual virtue. The guy, he is just freaking terrible. But speaking of terrible Democrats, here's a 5-second clip of Nancy Pelosi. If you're watching with the children, she's a little scary, so you got to move them to the side for a second. But look, she's really edgy right now.
We're going to tear up the crown.
she teared up the crown, guys. She teared up the crown. Now, of course, it was an imaginary crown because Donald Trump doesn't wear a crown because he's not a king. He's the duly elected president of the United States. But they are pretending. They are pretending he's a king. Meanwhile, they backed a guy who everyone knew had dementia and probably even worse. And that wasn't the president of the United States. But they were all about that. But now that we've got Trump, who's doing some good things, they've got, she broke the crown. She's so, my God, she's so brave. It's really just incredible. Here's an image of some of the sponsors of the No Kings rally. And if you think that this stuff is organic, this is the point. These organizations, whether they're socialist organizations or Marxist organizations, and they all have nice names like the workers this and the communists that and the socialists, these are well-funded NGOs that I have no doubt have ties back to Soros-funded groups. Bernie won't say a word about that. It's why you never see 20 people protesting. It's always hundreds of thousands. It's why they have these people who don't do anything for a living can suddenly have perfect placards out there with the same slogans. And then they repeat the slogans like they are clone soldiers. It is all absolutely coordinated. And I hope the Trump Justice Department is looking into RICO cases around this stuff because it is obvious there is some massive money situation going on there. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson on the general state of the silliness.
So let's start with the No Kings rallies. You called these Hate America rallies. What do you mean by that?
Well, that collection of folks that I listed were certainly part of it. We congratulate them on a apparently violent free speech exercise. I was a First Amendment lawyer for 20 years. We defend that right. But the irony of the message is pretty clear for everyone. If President Trump was a king, the government would be open right now. If President Trump was a king, they would not have been able to engage in that free speech exercise out on the mall, by the way, which was open because President Trump hasn't closed it. In the last shutdown, 2013 era, President Obama closed the National Mall, it closed all the national parks, didn't allow people to engage in all this. So, I mean, they needed a stunt, they needed a show. Chuck Schumer needs cover right now. He's closed the government down because he needs political cover, and this was a part of it.
So isn't that something? The king, the purported king, left the National Mall open so they could protest there. He didn't send in the troops to stop them, as most kings might do if there was a violent uprising of the people. He's allowing everybody to exercise their free speech, even when it is, I would say, borderline as close to direct calls for violence as you can possibly get. And we are also in the middle of a government shutdown. If this was all real and it was being done by the Republicans, would the king be shutting down his own government? What do you think? Probably not. Let's talk about Cove Pure for a minute and then more on the other side. You might not realize it, but over 70% of the U.S. population has fluoride added to their water supply, and many people are starting to think more carefully about what's in the water they drink every day. If you want more control over what goes into your body, Cove Pure makes it easy. It's a countertop water purifier that uses a 4-stage filtration system to remove fluoride, forever chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals, and other contaminants. Its ClearWave technology is lab certified to remove up to 99% of impurities, giving you the purest water possible. The water tastes amazing, and you can get it hot, cold, or warm instantly. There's no plumbing or installation required. Just fill it up, plug it in, and you're good to go. Because you're a listener of this show, you get $200 off when you go to covepure.com/Rubin. That's COVEPURE.com/Rubin. Okay, so if the average viewer of MSNBC is in their 70s and the average viewer of mainstream media as a whole is in their 60s, and then you wonder why these people get out there protesting, even though we still live in the freest country in the history of the world that is the jealousy of the world over, and you wonder, well, why are people so confused about everything? Well, it again goes back to the lies of the mainstream media. Yeah, we're showing you a clip from The View.
Why is this a hate rally when January 6th was called a normal tourist attraction?
That's right. That's right. I just don't understand.
That's interesting. Their particular priorities and how they describe convenient.
If Mike Johnson were a true leader, which I don't believe he is, if he were a true leader, he would be listening to the people because this government is for us, by us. It's of the people. And why I think there are going to be 2,500 events in every single state in 50 states is because people are opposing authoritarianism. People are exercising their First Amendment rights to peacefully assemble and free speech.
Right.
And so I think what he should be doing is listening to the fact that so many people and so many events are going to be taking place, and there's a real problem with Republican leadership and this Republican shutdown where you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people not being paid, losing their jobs, while Congress gets paid, while Congress has health care, and the American people are fed up.
Sonny, if I can quote Dan Aykroyd loosely from 1972, Sonny, you ignorant slut. Okay, it's an old SNL reference. Yeah. Connor's down here, by the way. There's a reason I keep looking down. It's a makeshift studio. Okay, here, you want to wave for a second? Put your hand in there so people look. There he is over there. Okay, Sonny, let's try it this way. If this thing was reversed, let's say Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or a chair or a spoon on the Democrat side were president right now, and a whole bunch of Trump people were rallying across the country, and they were rallying peacefully because they didn't like whatever it is about the Democrats one might not like, which there's an awful lot not to like. Do you think you'd be defending their right to free speech? You would be saying it's a hate rally. You would be saying it is a rally designed to upend the U.S. government and it's an insurrection and all these things. I mean, we know this because we've been through it before. You people are profoundly absurd. And at the same exact time, all of the things that you purport to think that Trump is going to do, he's going to send in the troops. He's not going to allow anyone to speak. He's going to arrest everybody. Sort of exactly what Bill Maher was saying before. He just wants this pretext to do all this awful stuff. None of it happened. Surprise, surprise. But it continues. Let's jump over to CNN. Here's a Democrat strategist. Her name is Julie Roginski, and she's taking the Maher line to a next level. This is about Trump wanting the Insurrection Act.
You know, he called these rallies Hate America rallies. What do you think this is coming to represent?
I think they are desperate, and I mean desperate, to invoke the Insurrection Act, and they're going to look for any excuse tomorrow to try to do that. So to anybody who's marching, I would say treat Donald Trump as a joke, as the protesters in Portland did. Be peaceful. If somebody tries to provoke you, do not get provoked. Do not engage. Because they want one little shred of violence, anything, to be able to say, look, the country's out of control. We're going to invoke the Insurrection Act. J.D. Vance said they're considering it. I mean, this is not something that's just theoretical. It's going to happen if there's an excuse. So I would just say to anybody who's marching, please do whatever you can to be as peaceful as possible, to not give them that excuse.
Julie, I'll give you a little credit there. Telling Democrats to be peaceful because they largely aren't peaceful and they cause mayhem throughout the cities and they burn things down in the name of tolerance during BLM and all the things that happened during COVID and everything else. Like, you're out on a limb there. You're out on a limb telling Democrats to be peaceful. There simply is no evidence. If Donald Trump wanted to instigate the Insurrection Act, then they would have been out there arguing and fighting with people. They would have sent troops to stop, and then there would have been fighting, and we'd be in a whole different situation right now. But note, none of that happened. Of course, this actually did happen when it comes to violence. Listen to this guy. I mean, look at this guy. This seemingly is a normal-looking, middle-aged man in Chicago. And listen to this rhetoric. I wonder, are they going to cover this on The View?
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
Oh, you got to grab a gun and you got to get these ICE agents wiped out and you got to shoot them and all that stuff. First off, that is absolutely not constitutionally protected free speech. That is a direct call. I mean, he's saying what weapon you should use and who you should shoot. So we'll find out what happens to this guy. But guessing you're not going to cover that on CNN, guessing Joy Behar is not going to cover that and Sonny isn't going to make a commentary about that or anything else. And notice, the police didn't run out there and grab the guy. The feds didn't magically appear. A bunch of masked men didn't grab him and throw him into a truck. None of it happened. But when we play you that clip with that guy saying, go shoot the ICE people, and we know that the Democrats Democrats have been screaming about having the ICE people unmasked so that they can dox their families. And then you think back to the clip from just moments ago with that, 65, 70-year-old woman talking about how she's happy Charlie was killed. And then to the backdrop of all of the people who celebrated Charlie's death, or all of the people who celebrated the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson after Luigi Mangione shot him in Times Square, you start thinking that maybe there are more and more and more of these people. And when you throw in a dash of jihad, which is out there, and a dash of Antifa and a dash of Marxism, it's like they're telling us we're the bad guys. They're telling us we're violent, even though we're not doing any of the things they're claiming we're going to do or that Trump's going to do. And who is mixed in this crowd? But they really have to push this narrative that Trump, that we all want something weird to happen so that he can go crazy.
I'm a little worried that there's some instigating, some government-sanctioned instigating that we may say take place on Saturday. What's the message? Because it seems to me that folks are going to have to exercise great restraint, and that, there may be some efforts to try to draw a spark from the crowd.
That's right. They will try to do that. That's clearly what they're trying to do. We've seen Republican leaders like Ted Cruz or Mike Johnson or members of the regime try to smear what we're doing here. And come on, it is so ridiculous. Anybody who's been to a hands-off protest or the No Kings protest or the May Day protest this year, what you have felt there is joy, is this sense of people power. It's folks with their dogs and their kids and funny signs and chanting and laughing and dancing. It's a scene, Jim. It's a place to be. And they're terrified of that, as any regime that is clinging to power while implementing unpopular policies would be terrified.
All right. I don't care who that other guy is. I don't really care about Jim Acosta, but can we send the other guy some testosterone replacement therapy? We're going to get that in the mail to that guy. But yes, it's just such a great party with the unicorn and everything. Yes, there's occasional people who are out there saying literally shoot the ICE agents. And there are some women celebrating the fact that Charlie Kirk is dead, just like Hitler was dead. But it's just great. And again, Jim Acosta, embarrassed, disgraced Jim Acosta, who's so crappy they won't even put him on CNN anymore. It's like, dude, none of what you predicted was going to happen actually happened. But will you, on your next day on your little podcast, will you say, boy, I was wrong about all of that and it all went off peacefully and Trump didn't do anything? No, of course you won't do that. But if you want to figure out instigators, it's interesting because several people we've shown you in this episode, that's what that woman Julie on CNN said, and Jim Acosta said it, and Joy Behar said it, and Bill Maher said it, that they're just waiting because there are these instigators who must be out there so that Trump can then drop the hammer. Well, not only did none of that happen then, but some of it did happen on January 6th. This is Donald Trump on Truth from 2 weeks ago, and we all know this is true. I'm only going to read the first portion here. It was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed against all rules, regulations, protocols, and standards 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. That's true. That is actually confirmed. So when those people, now, maybe some of them were misguided and maybe some of them shouldn't have walked in and broken some glass and sat at Nancy Pelosi's desk and taken a dump and those things. Maybe they shouldn't have done all of those things. Some of it was kind of funny, the guy with the horns and the whole thing. But there were 274 FBI agents. And do you think that they were encouraging people to break down the barricades and some of them were maybe opening some doors to go in and they were pushing people in certain directions and everything else? That would be secret government instigation. But that was you guys against Trump. That wasn't Trump actually doing it. But did you ever cover that? And even as the story has now broke, have you covered it? I think not. Let's talk about Morgan & Morgan, then we'll do some more. If you've ever been seriously hurt in an accident, your injury could actually be worth millions, and most people have no idea. Insurance companies love to lowball claims, offering way less than what you deserve. That's why there's Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys across 50 states. They've been fighting for people for more than 30 years, and they don't settle for lowball offers. Just recently, they won $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philadelphia, and $6.8 million in New York, all way above what insurance companies offered. And the best part, it's completely free unless you win. No upfront costs, no hidden fees. It takes only a couple minutes to see if you have a case. Did you know you can start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just one click? It's super easy. Just go to forthepeople.com/Rubin or click the link in the description and pin comment. Okay, so I noodled Maher a little bit at the beginning, but now we will do good Maher because he was talking about what now seems to be an almost impossible situation to stop in New York City, that the communist, who I keep saying with a dash of jihad, Zohran Mamdani, is going to be mayor. And here is Maher warning people, but they are just not going to listen.
It seems to me that there are two pillars that this country is founded on. One is democracy, and one is capitalism, free markets. And it seems like one party wants to get rid of one, and the other party wants to get rid of the other, right? The Republicans are not that, democracy is just not number one on their list. It just isn't. It isn't. It's behind Christianity and a few other things. And the Democrats, I mean, I read these, 74% are for democratic socialism. Only 16% favor capitalism. Is this going to be a country that I don't recognize in 5 to 10 years if we don't have these two pillars? If we don't, I mean, where are the Democrats going with this? If Mamdani is the face of the Democrats on the East Coast and Katie Porter is the face on the West Coast, I don't know if that's great politically for that party.
All right. So first, Bill, I'm trying to give you some credit here. Republicans do not dislike freedom. It's Republicans that are securing the border so that Americans can live more freely. It's Republicans that are trying to keep our cities safe so that Americans can live more freely. It's Republicans that try to get the government off your back via regulation and taxes so you can do more economically, which then connects it to the capitalist thing, of course. And yes, Democrats now are wildly, wildly socialist, and it is completely antithetical to everything that this country was founded upon. So both of the things you're talking about there are problems really with the Democrat Party. I get what you're trying to do. He's trying to do a little of the both thing all of the time. But the fact that he, as a liberal, is going after Mamdani is good because New York City is about to be destroyed. So the other thing that's happened over the last couple of days is they had the second mayoral debate in New York City, and it's basically between Mamdani, who's just up by like 30 points in the polls, versus Andrew Cuomo, who killed all of the old people as governor, and just, he has no juice. There's no inspiration in him. He doesn't want to be up there. He knows he's losing. And then there's Curtis Sliwa from the Guardian Angels, who's a good, decent New Yorker, but he's a Republican and he's polling at like 16%. So it's just impending, imploding disaster is on the way. But here's Mamdani explaining a bit about how he's going to make things free. And by free, it's not free.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. And that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I've put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
Oh, great. Let's make the corporate tax rate that of Jersey. Jersey, which is on the verge, hopefully, of electing a Republican governor to reverse some of their anti-business practices, right? Yes, just more taxes. We'll just take more from those people. So we'll raise the tax rate on the top people to get $4 billion, and then we'll take another $5 billion from the corporations. And what do you think is going to happen? Yes, they are all going to flee to the free state of Florida, and then the few that will remain will have to be taxed even more and more and more. This is communism 101. Everyone sees it. Get the fuck out of the city now if you live there and you are sane. Here is Zohran. I mean, this one, when I say a dash of jihad, here's Zohran going after Andrew Cuomo because he hasn't been to a mosque lately.
Candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except, that is totally false. I worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to when you were the governor. Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here. They were
before I was here.
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community. Yeah. Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups,
You couldn't
tolerance
visit a
groups,
mosque.
anti-Semitic groups, etc.
All right, gentlemen.
I think the anti-Semitic groups was a bit of a Freudian slip there. We were working with all these Muslims, the anti-Semites. Okay, fine. That's one thing. Now, first off, going to a mosque is not a prerequisite to be mayor of New York City, nor is going to a temple or a church or anything else. He's supposed to be the mayor of the people. And Zohran, the implication is that Muslims just want equality. There is no law stopping any Muslim from doing anything that anyone else can't do in New York. Now, soon enough, once you get in and you slowly bring in Sharia law, you're going to have special rights for Muslims. And I assume that the few dingbat leftist Jews there will be paying the jizya like Andrew Cuomo will be too. But it's weird to me that Cuomo just has no juice, right? There's just nothing there. He so doesn't even want to be up there anymore. But it's strange to me he hasn't been to a mosque because I vaguely remember him saying that he was Muslim.
As a New Yorker, I am a Muslim. As a New Yorker, I am Jewish. As a New Yorker, I am black. I am gay. I am disabled. I am a woman seeking to control her health and her choices, because as a New Yorker, we are one community.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's possible that as a black, Muslim, Jewish, gay, lesbian who's trying to protect her rights, it's tough to find a mosque that can fit all that shit in there. So maybe that's why it's like, Mamdani, maybe you could recommend a mosque for the Jewish, Muslim, black, lesbian. But I'm telling you guys, you have no idea how bad it is going to get with this guy. So look at this undercover video. This is one of Zohran's canvassing directors being asked about what he thinks about how the fact that the New York City Police Department, so many there, are not happy with his, defund the police, anti-gun policies. And listen to this response.
What did the police think about Zohran? Because I know that's like a little contentious.
What they think. You're a city employee. You get told what to do. Shut up. When did you get an opinion?
I mean, I would say that commentary is rather extraordinary, but it's actually pretty obvious. Who gives a shit? Who cares what you think? You're a city employee. Shut up. Do what we tell you to do. Who are the authoritarians again? We've had a theme on this show about the authoritarians, and they keep telling us that Donald Trump and the Republicans are the authoritarians. What did Bill Maher just say? That Donald Trump doesn't like democracy, doesn't like freedom and all of those things. And there you have a canvasser for Mamdani. Who gives a fuck, right? Like, who cares what they think? Do you see this, how out of control this is under the guise of the lo-fi music and the soft lens that the guy uses and the nice suits sits something very, very nasty. You will do what they tell you to do, or you will be in a lot of trouble. So again, if you have means, if you are sane, if you love freedom, you must leave. You must leave. Here's Mark Cuban, who is he's very much like sort of a Bill Maher style Democrat. He kind of gets things. He became a billionaire because of capitalism, has a bit of Trump derangement syndrome. Here he is trying to make the case for why Zohran would be good ultimately for the Democrats.
But at the same time, I think Mamdani's great for the Democratic Party.
You do?
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because nobody, right? If you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Because nobody in the Democratic Party knows how to sell but him. Nobody in the Democratic Party knows how to use social media but him. They will learn from him. Now, New York may be fucked for 4 years, right? But they will learn from him.
I'm a New Yorker.
But seriously, right? Who in the Democratic Party knows how to sell, knows how to convey a message, knows how to commit to people?
Yeah, it depends what the message is, though. I've seen it. We've been living
know how to
through.
Sell anyways. If you gave a Democrat a dollar bill and told him to sell it for 50 cents, they wouldn't be able to do it. Mamdani's always in a suit. He's telling you what you want to hear. He has a social media team that designs the message, and it comes across geared towards Gen Z, geared towards even younger people, and they're accepting it. That's one of the reasons young kids want socialism, because of his ability to sell.
All right, so I want to give Cuban some credit here, even though I'm usually pretty critical of him. He's not defending Zohran's ideas, right? Even though I think Cuban is wrong about most of his political conclusions. He's not defending socialism. He's not defending communism. As a matter of fact, he says that New York City is going to pay for it, and then the audience laughs. The audience laughs at that. But what he's saying is, you got to give credit for how the sausage is made, how they are doing it. And they're doing it, as I always say, with the lo-fi music, and they're doing the lens flares, and they're doing all of his highly produced stuff, and it's selling something that ultimately is not good, that is basically pure gibberish that sounds good on the outside, but if you were really to listen to what it is or really understand what it is underneath the hood, you would see something horrible. So I've been sitting on this clip for about a year trying to figure out how to work it into one of the shows, and then I think we finally figured it out today. I love this. I absolutely love this. In 1972, there was an Italian singer in Italy by the name of Adriano Celentano, and American culture and music and movies had, taken the globe by storm at that point. And he did not speak a word of English, but he wrote a song. And all he did was make a song that sounds like it was in English. None of the words were real, but everyone in Italy thought it was real. They thought he was singing in English, and it became the #1 song in Italy, and it became one of the #1 songs in all of Europe. So it's exactly what Mark Cuban is talking about there. It was packaged properly. Underneath was pure gibberish. Here's Adriano Celentano. I mean, it's pretty freaking catchy, right? Like we'll put a link to the full song in the description. But that is it. It was packaged right. You watch that video, he's singing, the girls are out there, the music was good. It's the same thing as Mamdani. It's slick, it's packaged right, it looks right, they got the right cameras. But as it quite literally was in that song from Italy, 1972. It's gibberish. It's nothing. It's meaningless nonsense. Although in this case, it's going to destroy the once greatest city in the history of the world. In that case, it basically just made that guy some money and he was a one-hit wonder, and that was it. So how do we end this show positively? Because it's a beautiful day and I'm across the world in Australia on the absolutely gorgeous shore here in Sydney. Well, let's talk about the guy that they think is the king, the guy that they think is going to stop free speech and who hates freedom and all of those things, as he's doing virtually everything he can to right the ship. Well, here he is on why he's doing what he's doing.
I don't care about all that stuff. I just care about saving lives. And I love solving wars. You know why? I like stopping people from being killed. And I've saved millions and millions of lives.
Yeah, and he quite literally has. Basically 8 wars, depending on how you define wars, have wrapped up under Donald Trump. And yes, the Hamas thing's getting a little out of control again, which is why I was the entire time saying I'm not Pollyannish about peace, and we will see what actually happens. But that guy right there, who's wrapping up the wars, who wants to save people's lives, who's now working on Russia, Ukraine, who again has done the border stuff, and whether you agree with all the tariff stuff or not, or whether you agree with all his tax policies or not, or anything else, obviously is for America and didn't go out there and act like a king and shut down the National Mall and didn't do anything to instigate the unicorns or the man who was calling to kill ICE people or the woman who was celebrating that Charlie was dead or anything else. So what is the point? How do we wrap this all up? Well, we all got to get involved, right? It's the same thing I always say. We all got to get involved. And I know it's tough to get involved. It really is, because you're going to screw up. You're going to make some mistakes. You're not going to know what you're doing half the time, but you must figure out a way to get involved, because if you fail, but you're trying and you fail again and again and again and again, you will start racking up some wins. And here's a guy who knows a little something about winning.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
And that's it, guys, right? Michael Jordan, without question, the greatest basketball player ever. 6 for 6 NBA finals, et cetera, et cetera. 26 times he missed game-winning shots, missed over 9,000 shots, lost all the time. How many How many? He hit 9 games. Is that it? Think about that. If you would have asked me, I would have said probably 30. He hit 9 game-winning shots in his career, missed 26. So get out there and get involved, because I think if nothing else, we've illustrated on this show that the media's got it backwards. The people who are out there protesting, they have it backwards. And the reason they always get oxygen is because we give it to them. So let's get involved. Let's fight for what is right, for what is true. You do it back home in America. I'm going to do it right here in Australia. And I'll see you tomorrow.